The infamous FIFA Club World Cup is truly underway, and to say that the public response to it has been divisive is putting it lightly. Empty stadiums, blistering heat, strange scheduling, looming threats of being mistaken for a cartel overlord and being stuffed into a cannon and blasted to the moon. But also, America vs. Europe has taken center stage in more surprising fashion than I think most expected. Great goals, upsets, and more. Here, as is the case with life in general, the spectrum of perception is quite a large one. Hello, hope you're doing well. Welcome back. I'm Tinashe. The Club World Cup has been interesting, to say the least. I made a poll yesterday to check in and see how the audience feels about it, and I was a little bit surprised, I'm not gonna lie. About 8k votes at the moment, and it's pretty much split down the middle. But on second thoughts, I probably shouldn't have been all that surprised, because if you're a regular watcher of this channel, you go into the comment section of any random video or the comment section of this poll, for example, you'll know that we're dealing with a global demographic on this channel. And even though I mostly speak about European football, this tournament was not designed for a European audience, just like how Taco Bell was clearly not designed for the French stomach. But we'll get into why that's important to consider in a bit. I want to talk about quite a few things in this video. First of all, how you haven't subscribed. What's up with that? Everyone else has. Like I said, I feel a lot of rhetoric around this tournament has bordered on the extreme in either direction. So in this video, I want to look at things from as many angles as I can, both sides of the poll. And we'll start with the Nations League final about 2 weeks ago from recording this video. It showed us that the only thing required to get football fans to buy into something is to offer high-level competitive football that the players care about. And if it's not high level, it needs to be entertaining and offer narratives. A common thing that people have said about this tournament is that the players look tired, they're fatigued because they're coming off of long seasons. And I'll admit, I've seen that, here and there in some matches, especially the Atletico vs PSG game. But on the whole, you can see the passion and energy exuding from what's going on. Just look at the Botafogo support towards the end of the PSG match. How each tackle was cheered, how they celebrated the win. Luis Enrique's PSG are the best team in Europe, and the man just said that Botafogo were the best team to defend against them over the last season. Yeah, maybe he was just being flattering, but PSG were trying in that game. And when he said that, I swear I could hear Mikel Arteta drop to his knees in a Tesco somewhere. It was 3 a.m., but I refused to rewrite the joke. Everything I was seeing about Chelsea before their match against Flamengo pretty much alluded to the fact that they were going to steamroll their opposition and that they had already won the match. But, they were outplayed. This is real, guys. It's very real. If you're watching this video, I'm guessing that there's a very high probability that you've already heard about all the talking points both for and against this tournament. But on the odd chance that you haven't, I guess I'll run through them briefly for you right now. The main talking point, or at least one of them, is that this oversaturation of matches and scheduling is going to lead to increased player fatigue, which will in turn lead to a diluted product. If this competition persists, as that it has further additions further and further down the line every 4 years as they're planning it, then that means that players will have one free summer vacation on every rolling 4-year cycle. 2026, World Cup. 2027, break. 2028, Euros and Copa America. 2029, Club World Cup. And then we can insert AFCON and Asian Cup in 2027, but these occur during the European season. Of course, all the travel, all the knockout football, especially for AFCON and Asian Cup, will lead to increased player fatigue and all of that. But for the sake of this argument here in this video, we're just pertaining really to European and I guess American summer. And there will be more competitions along the way. I'm just naming some of the ones I can think of right now. Is introducing all of these tournaments worth it? Isn't the current system of football working? Why change anything? FIFA also, for some reason, decided to drastically tone down, some people even thought scrap, most of their anti-discrimination campaigns for seemingly no reason. Inclusivity was a pretty big marketing point for the Qatar World Cup.
Today I feel gay.
It's a strange decision to omit them in the US, the land of the free. However, after a few days, the messaging seemingly has returned. Of course, this is a developing story. Of course, one of the main counters in favor of this tournament is that people have been asking for a true expanded Club World Cup for a very, very long time now, and I agree with that one. The World Cup is one thing, but this Japanese River Plate fan doesn't have to be as conflicted this time around. All previous efforts for a global club competition have been accused of being exclusionary of the wider football landscape or just lacking in conviction. There are tweaks that need to be made, especially in terms of qualification mechanisms, inclusion, a whole bunch of other things, but this tournament in its current form, it seems to give a lot of teams that come from geographies that aren't as appreciated as the more traditionally big geographies access to increased opportunities, money, and exposure. And as some of the results in this tournament have shown, the quality gaps, they aren't as clear-cut as some believe. Check out any discussions regarding Brazilian teams on Twitter and Reddit, and you'll be led to believe that the only reason they're winning is because this is the worst Europe since the continental drift. And if you are to point towards a perceived lack of motivation for some of the larger teams and some of the upsets that have happened, I would point you towards, again, the expressions on their faces when they lose and when they win, as well as the $1 billion prize pool, which we'll also get into in a bit. You're hearing a lot of one or the other, depending on where you consume your media. This is the part of the video where it comes to a bit of self-reflection. I'm one of those people where when this tournament was first announced, I scoffed at it. I still do, in a sense. It is a cash grab. It's a pretty blatant cash grab, and also it has a lot of bad knock-on effects, which he's spoken about. But you also have to realize that, as most people do, I live in a bit of an echo chamber. When it comes to football discourse, I'll be honest about it, my main platforms of consumption are The Athletic, The Guardian, Kicker, Der Spiegel, Football Italia, and Reddit, sometimes ESPN. These are Eurocentric platforms, including Reddit and ESPN, when it comes to football at least. Since the tournament was announced, it seemed that everything and everyone was pulling together to make sure that the whole thing was an outright failure. And now that it's here, I don't know that it will be. Prestige or not, to the players and teams, these matches mean something. And I guarantee you that whichever team and group of fans eventually wins is going to parade it as a monumental major trophy victory. And can you actually blame them? Also, by the way, every single one of those platforms that I mentioned is very closely and rigorously following and reporting on the tournament. They wouldn't be doing that if they didn't know most of the people that denounced the tournament will be watching, because they are, in fact, those people. In some ways, it's very similar to the World Cup in 2022, and please don't misquote me. These two countries and tournaments are not comparable at all in terms of surrounding social issues and underlying politics. This is just a video regarding fan sentiment and perception. You know, what you read versus what you see. Headlines about attendance records being abysmal have flooded the front pages, which from watching bits and pieces from a couple games as well as highlights is accurate. The one that immediately comes to mind is the Mamelodi Sundowns opening game, which had about 3,000 people in a stadium that had a 30,000 seat capacity. But this is what happens when you schedule matches in a sport that isn't extremely popular between two teams that most people in the local area have never even heard of or have any interest in. Not to mention that many of the matches are all in the middle of the workday. It's not the best scheduling, ticketing, or venue allocation, that's for sure. Even still, having 22,000 people show up to watch Chelsea vs LAFC at 3 p.m. on a Monday in Atlanta doesn't sound terrible. And remember, we're only in the group stages. Hopefully the lessons learned here can be applied to make sure similar issues don't arise for the World Cup next year. A trial run like this is needed when you get rid of the Confederation Cup, I guess. FIFA is on a mission to extract as much as possible out of their products, much like UEFA. I went into this in a video I made last year on the history of UEFA. It might be time for the FIFA edition. In any case, the two have historically been at odds end on numerous occasions, so it's no wonder that right now the two are in yet another tug of war for resources. When the European Super League was being touted, FIFA were very vocal about how they opposed the whole show, even claiming that any clubs or players involved in the league wouldn't be eligible to represent their countries in any FIFA or UEFA organized event. FIFA then created their own global Super League themselves as the Club World Cup, and UEFA added the Conference League and continued to expand the Champions League and Europa League. The real play here for FIFA and UEFA, however, is to capture the American audience. We see this with clubs playing exhibition matches in the States during active seasons. The Premier League has touted ideas of playing regular season matches in America. La Liga schedules matches at 10 p.m. On Sundays, UEFA have always done the same with the late kickoffs, and it makes sense. Listen, I'll let you guys all in on a little well-known secret. The majority of the audience on this channel is American. The popularity of the sport in the country is booming, and all the organizers are trying their hardest to capitalize on this moment. But they're doing it in a way that isn't exactly transferable or attainable within the sport at this current moment in time, and that's quite key. At this current moment in time. Story time. I experienced my first NBA game last year. It was a Warriors vs Lakers game at the Chase Center, and I finally understood why there is so much money in American sports and why they couldn't give a flying toss about many other sports around the world. It was a preseason game, not even a regular season game, but ad placement was blasted in your face wherever you looked. The arena is roofed and the music was blaring from second one, and you could feel the vibrations as you were there. Whenever there was a timeout or a quarter break or anything like that, there were people on the floor doing some sort of performance in some shape or way. FIFA wants this, or at the very least, they want some version of it. Both the Club World Cup and the FIFA World Cup are confirmed to be having halftime shows, which is normal in American sports and will be familiar to regular American sports fans. I don't know about everyone else. On to DAZN, the reason this tournament exists in the first place. As has been widely reported, DAZN paid FIFA $1 billion for the exclusive broadcast rights to the tournament. It seems that they were more or less uncontested in this bid, and even further, they're showing every game for free. How can DAZN afford this? Well, a month after this was announced, the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund concluded a deal to buy a 10% stake in DAZN for $1 billion. 2 months after that, FIFA announced the prize pool for the Club World Cup, $1 billion. The 2034 World Cup is in Saudi Arabia. FIFA and DAZN have announced several deals and strategic partnerships in the lead up to that, so it's not that hard to follow the trail here. Just do a Google search. DAZN does not care about losing money, and they never have. They've publicly stated they want to be somewhat of a Netflix of football. Like many market disruptors with a bit of conviction, they're willing to go through years and years of eating costs so they can get there. The streamer reportedly lost $1.4 billion in 2023, $1.2 billion the year before, and now they have the backing of Saudi money. I mean, they had it before, especially in the combat sports game, but you know what I mean. What I will say though is that this is my first time using DAZN, and I've been quite surprised, I must say. I don't know if many of the features that are on there are also present on their coverage of the Champions League or the Bundesliga, for example. They may be, for all I know. It's not that bad. Dare I say, it's quite pleasant. It's obvious that all of this has been optimized for a more casual audience that maybe gets a little bit bored from general gameplay. To wrap this video up, let's talk about prestige. There is no prestige at the moment, but just like with the Nations League, if the players and the teams care about it, the fans will start to care about it. England, the pioneers of modern football, did not even attend the first World Cup in 1930. They felt that FIFA, the World Cup, and all of its associates were not worth their attention. And they weren't the only ones. England only entered the World Cup for the first time in 1950, won the tournament 16 years later, and it remains the greatest achievement in the national team's history. Of course, in that scenario, you can say that there was an undeniable need for a tournament between all the countries in the world in the sport. You can't really say that there's an undeniable need for the FIFA Club World Cup, even though I've given some reasons for why people might argue that in this very video, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say. This entire thing was just about arguing both sides. I can already tell that in the later stages of this tournament, the heat will pick up, and I'll probably feel compelled, to do a match review here and there. And there we have it. Divisive tournament, divisive topic, but what do you guys think about the FIFA Club World Cup? In case you missed it, I've been posting weekly extra long episodes on Spotify and Apple Music on football stories and football commentary and all that good stuff. Last week we did Antonio Conte's Juventus, and next week we tackle the transfer market. So interesting stuff. Feel free to check it out. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.